Hello, listeners. What you're about to hear is the live show that we did at FOSS Talk Live 2017 at the Harrison Pub in London on the 24th of June. We've trimmed the show down a bit because some of the last segment wasn't quite family friendly. There should also be a video available if you'd like to watch that. Otherwise, we'll be back next week with a normal recorded show. Hope you enjoy it. Right, okay, so hello everybody and welcome to the second FOSS Talk Live Ubuntu podcast live show thing that we're doing. Now,
hey!
Awesome, thank you. As if you were here last time, you might remember that we do a thing when we start recording to make sure we can sync up our audio. Now, what happens is I say 3, 2, 1. Then when I would say 0, I say biscuits. And everyone has to say biscuits at the same time as me because then we can line it up nicely. So can we please try that now? 3, 2, 1.
Biscuits. Sorry.
It's like a pantomime with this guy, seriously.
No, it's not.
Hey! Right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Biscuits. And because you did that so well, we're going to give out biscuits to everyone.
Right, pass them on. There's some ginger nuts there for Stuart. Some jammy Dodgers. There we go.
There we go. Now, for those of you who don't know us, my name is Mark Johnson. This fine gentleman to my left is Martin Wimpress.
Hello.
That guy on the end there is Alan Pope.
Hello.
And filling our vacant chair for this evening is Mycroft.
Oh, that's awkward.
Oh, what happened to Mycroft, Alan?
So you may or may not know that Mycroft was a Kickstarter campaign about 15 years ago that lots of people backed, and it hasn't actually delivered yet. I've seen photos online and renders, and I backed it, and actually they asked me to record my voice for the thing, so my voice is the voice of Mycroft, but I haven't actually received one yet, so I thought I'd make my own. So I've made my own Mycroft, which you'll find just here, which we'll have as a backup. It's kind of like a tub of lard kind of backup Mycroft that we've got. Let me just plug it in.
It's very authentic.
Check it out.
Look at that.
Oh,
there we go.
Say hello, Mycroft.
Yeah, say hello, Mycroft.
Command.
I don't know what that was.
No, I think you need to speak a bit louder.
Speak up, Mycroft.
I've had enough. I'm switching to Solus.
Okay, he's switching to Solus Linux. Okay, that's a good start. Just so you know, it's much better than the original Mycroft because it's got pasta inside it, Parma violets, love hearts, and tea bags. So that makes it way better than the original Mycroft.
Well, there we go. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Moving on.
If any of you want to take photographs, please do. Try and get them in landscape, and if you tweet them and use the hashtag FOSS Talk, all lowercase, any good ones we'll use as banner art on our websites. And if you're not on Twitter, better yet, you could join our Telegram group at ubuntupodcast.org/Telegram. You're welcome.
Also, a bit later on, we have a little bit of audience participation, and I have some cards here. This will all become clear a little bit later on. If you could just take these cards and just pass them around so a few random individuals in the audience have a card, this would all become clear a little bit later on.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I think that's it, isn't it? Right, while you're passing those out and the biscuits are being consumed, let's just do this.
Right, and in case this podcast on its backside, can we just have some general cheering and applause from the audience
while the music is playing?
And we'll let that in. There we go.
It's really long. Did you get your ginger nuts?
Yeah, that was deliberate, sorry.
What did I do that for? So, what have we been up to? Since like at the start of the show, we usually go, what have we been up to? What have you been up to, Mark?
I have been trying to keep my garden alive in the searing heat we've had the past week.
How have you been doing that?
By watering it a lot.
How have you been watering it, Mark?
I don't have any. I don't have any kind of technology involved. I've literally just been using a watering can and having to see what's dying each day. I don't have some sort of clever Raspberry Pi moisture detector setup, unfortunately, to talk about.
Wow.
No. Maybe I'll have that in place for next year.
Gardening tips, everyone. Welcome to the Ubuntu podcast.
Martin, what have you been up to?
Well, a bit of code golf, which we might get to later on, and I've been preparing because next week we've got a snappy sprint at work. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. They don't.
Yeah.
Go on, tell them.
There's this thing called snaps. Snaps. Snappy snaps. And Snapcraft. I've even got a T-shirt that says all those things. And next week we've got some community people and some people from the Snapcraft team all working together to improve snaps and Snapcraft.
Cool. Alan, what have you been doing?
I've been making a crappy remake of Mycroft.
Brilliant.
As you can see. Yeah, that took all of 25 minutes.
How are you feeling about that, Mycroft?
Let's find out what Mycroft says.
A strange game. The only winning move is not to play.
Well,
there we go.
yes.
Insightful stuff.
I think he's totally right. Yes. Should we get on with things?
Yeah, let's do that.
I haven't mentioned the laminated thing of disaster.
I need to get out of the way, don't I? All right, okay. All right.
Joke. So, some of you who've maybe lived in the UK or watched British television at some point in the past may be aware of a TV programme called Ready Steady Cook that was hosted by this guy, or Fern. Yeah, I couldn't find a good picture of Fern, unfortunately, so we've got Ainsley.
Wonderful.
And the goal of this programme was people would cook stuff up given limited resources. So they'd have £5 or something and go and buy some stuff and make stuff. So I decided we'd come up with something similar to this, but instead of being Ready Steady Cook, it's Ready Steady Code. Yeah.
See what we did there?
Yeah, there we go.
There?
So what I did was I gave these two guys a challenge, which was to write something interesting in 20 lines of code, which harks back to the 20 minutes that they were given to make the recipes. So Mark's up first. Could you please tell us what you made? You're not going to be subjected to them live coding for 20 minutes. Don't worry. We did this already. So Mark, show us what you got.
Well, I was inspired... back up. Okay, I was inspired by a conversation which happened in our Telegram channel a week or so ago. You go to ubuntupodcast.com/telegram.
Thanks.
org/telegram.
org, yeah.
And so what happened was someone was discussing about the length of our podcast, because what we used to do is we would record for an hour and then we put it out as an hour-long show every fortnight. But now what we do is we record for an hour, then put it out as 2 30-minute shows every fortnight. And so people were saying they prefer longer podcasts. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was some sort of system for joining the 2 30-minute shows together into one longer show? But of course, you don't want us at the end of the show saying goodbye and telling you what's going to happen in the next bit, and then us saying hello and telling you what's going to happen in the next bit. So it probably wants to be a bit clever. So I present to you the Ubuntu podcast of yesteryear original unit reproduction script. So you call it like this. What you do is you pass in the first episode and the second episode. You then pass in the sting, which we play just before the outro, and then you pass in a file name for it to write to at the end. Now, here's the code.
Do I need to get out of the way?
Are you going to read this line by line?
Oh, yeah. Right. So what it does is it starts with, it uses FFmpeg to find the duration of the first show. It then uses a program called fpcalc, which does something quite clever. It will look at the sting you pass in and create a fingerprint. I don't know what it does, but it gives you some numbers. What it does is it gives you something that looks like this. So you get 3 lines of output, and the third line of output is a load of numbers, and that's all we really care about. So basically all that stuff at the end of the second line, that's just giving us those numbers back. That's all we really want to know. We then set some variables to store stuff in, and we start a loop. Now what we do in the loop is we step through the show in 1/10 of a second increments. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to match the sting which we played with where it is in the original show, and you've got to be quite accurate, I found. So what we do is every 1/10 of a second we'll chop out a 10-second slice, which is the length of the sting. We'll then create a fingerprint of that, and then here this code is what you do to compare 2 fingerprints together and see how different they are. So again, you'll notice this line is very similar to the second line because we're doing the same command on a different file. And
eat your biscuits of sustenance now.
So essentially what we're doing is for every tenth of a second, we're getting 10 seconds. We're then comparing it to the 10 seconds we had in the beginning and seeing if they're the same. If they are, then we know that we've got where we want to cut the audio. Otherwise, we carry on and do the next 10 seconds after a tenth of a second. So essentially what we're doing is this. We have the show up here, we have the sting down here, and we want to find where the sting matches the audio in the show. It's a bit louder down there, which is why it's bigger. And we want to find there, and we want to cut the first track off there, and then we want to join the second track on there. So basically, it's going through, it's storing how different the clip that we cut out of the show is from the sting, and it's storing them in an array, and at the bottom it finds the sting, the clip which was least different from the sting, and says that's probably where the sting was, and then it uses FFmpeg to cut the first show up until that point, and then it sticks the second show on the end, and then because I had a line left, this only took 19 lines by the way, I clean up after myself at the end.
That's amazing. A round of applause for Mike, Mark, I think that
I should.
Well, sorry, one thing. If you don't believe me, if you go to tinyurl.com/UPC FOSS Talk, there's an example of what this does.
I should explain that Mark and I didn't actually know what each of us was working on, so that's the first time I've seen that.
If you did the same thing, I'm going to be very upset.
No, nothing like it. Fortunately, fortunately, Alan has. We know they're different.
Yes, that's fantastic. I'm thoroughly impressed by that. Let's move on. Martin,
right.
What the hell did you do? Also, Mycroft, what do you think?
Okay, Google.
Oh, all right. Whatever. Moving on.
Okay. So you got the premise. It's my turn. My first thought was, what language am I going to use? We had talked about going retro with this and potentially using Spectrums and Commodore 64s, but then I remembered...
Sorry?
Yes, those,
That's what I was going to do until I realised it was too hard and decided you two should code and it shouldn't be me.
So whilst I was thinking this over, I remembered XKCD 353, which is this, which basically says Python is very powerful and all the batteries are included. So although Python's not well suited for writing something good, what was the criteria? Something interesting in 20 lines of code. Yes. I thought if I import one interesting module, I might be able to do something interesting with it. Hence the import gravity. So once I'd decided I was going to use Python, there was really only one obvious choice as to what I was going to make. Snake. So if you're a Python programmer, I apologize for what you're about to see. That is Snake in 19 lines of Python. Oh, goodness, it's going backwards and forwards too quickly. There we go. That is Snake in 19 lines of Python. I won't explain all of those lines right now because I've broken them down. And then here we go. So we've got the initialization step. We import Pygame. That does some of the hard lifting for me. I initialize the surface, set up some numbers, and all of these numbers are very deliberately chosen because they all divide nicely by each other where they need to be. And this is because in order to make things simple, I didn't use a grid. Python does, what's the word? List something or other.
Eat more biscuits.
Eat more biscuits. So it's a big, long list of numbers to display the grid. And then I've got a single function, which is to plot the snake and the apple. And then this is the logic. And that first line there, the while loop, that basically uses some modulus and some bitwise
There's a lot of lines here.
And that basically is the collision detection in one line. That works out if the head of the snake intersects itself or goes beyond the boundaries of the game in one line. So that resolves to either 1, which is everything's fine, or something other than 1, which is bad things happened. And then we've got the length of the snake, which is the score. We print the score. We look for the key events. And hardcore gamers will be disappointed. I haven't used the WASD key layout. I've used the cursor keys because they are...
You'll lose a mark for that. Sorry.
They're sequential value on the keyboard, so working out their ordinal values and then mapping them to something is really easy by using another bitwise operator.
This is great radio.
And then we work out where the snake fits into the list. And then we work out if the snake has eaten the apple, and then we plot the snake and the apple, flip the display round, move the snake on the distance it needs to go, wait 100 milliseconds, and that loop carries on going until you die, at which point it prints your score and tells us to join our Telegram channel. And that bit.ly address resolves to ubuntupodcast.org/Telegram.
So if you forward once, it should.
Yeah. And then
unfortunately, Joe's laptop's a little bit slow.
That's what it looks like. So this is me playing it. I recorded this using
FFmpeg
and then converted it to a GIF. No, I suck. It's rather ironic that I made this game and then I'm terrible at it. But that is the game there. Playing. That's me picking up. This goes for a minute. We can go longer, but there we go. Yeah. Don't clap. Just throw money. So, I think I eventually get to a grand total of 18 points. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Martin. I think
so there you go.
A round of applause for Martin there. Thank you very much. So I think it's worth pointing out that my initial criteria of please write this only 20 lines of code, I didn't say you couldn't import a bazillion lines of somebody else's code, which both of them did. But I think that worked quite well. So as in the usual way we do it with Can't Cook, Won't Cook, there are people in the audience who have cards showing red peppers and green tomatoes. So what we've got is some of you in the audience have cards that have a picture of a ruby on one side and the Python logo on the other side. So if I could ask you all to hold up those cards for who you think won, bearing in mind Mark was ruby and Martin was Python. If you could hold them up now, please. Oh gosh, that's really hard to do.
Wow. Okay.
9. Oh my god, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mycroft,
5,
who would
6,
you have
7.
voted for?
Here I am, brain the size of a planet.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think by a tiny edge, Martin has it. So well done, Martin. Round of applause to Martin. Thank you very much.
Well played, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, so we had a thought about maybe having a segment talking about, the age of Ubuntu and how long we've been doing this, and we thought about talking about all the nice positive things that have happened over the years, but then we thought, screw that, let's talk about all the bugs. So we went back and had a look at some of the most interesting and annoying and amusing bugs that we could find in Launchpad to do with Ubuntu, and we've picked out some of our favourites. Shall I kick off with one?
Go for it.
Do.
Okay, so Tuesday the 5th of August 2008, bug was filed. When I click print, I get nothing. Nothing lights on the printer, no message. OpenOffice behaves just like it had printed, and yet nothing prints. My printer is a Brother MFC 240C. Prints fine from other apps, Firefox, Evince, no problem. Interesting. Now, like many bugs in Ubuntu, it got kind of left for a little while. A few days later, Friday the 8th of August, OpenOffice started printing today. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because of a recent update. I don't know what update did this. Then the following week, Tuesday the 12th of August, OpenOffice stopped printing today. Skip forward to Monday, the 18th of August, 2008. OpenOffice began printing again. Before I even updated, so I'm not convinced updates caused the change. Then we skip forward to April 2009. Like, nobody's touched this. Tuesday, 28th of April. My wife has complained that OpenOffice will never print on Tuesdays. Then she demonstrated it. Sure enough, won't print on Tuesday. Other applications print. I think this is the same bug. Sorry. So it turns out the bug is in a utility called File, which tries to determine what type of file something is, and it gets it wrong because there's some data in the file that's wrong, and I think it wrongly identifies a print job as being an Erlang file or something because some of the bits at the start of the file make it look like an Erlang file. And
but
that
only on Tuesday.
Yeah, and so only on a Tuesday those things don't print, and that just Makes me smile. I love that bug all the time. What have you got, Mark?
Okay, the next one is Ubuntu bug 1169238. I'm sure you all know it well.
Oh, yeah, classic.
Yeah.
So, the introduction to this. If you're familiar with Ubuntu, you know that Unity has a launch down the side, and there is a big friendly button at the top which has the Ubuntu logo, which gives you the dash. And the complaint was, it seems that most of the positive symbols across different cultures in the world run clockwise. The swirl displayed in our launcher home, BFB, runs anti-clockwise. We should change the direction of its rotation. Life must go forward, not backwards, as I'm sure you want to do with your operating system, but subconsciously you are telling people exactly the opposite. Now... Now, there are quite a few. This was probably about a fortnight before the freeze for release, and there were a few negative comments here from people saying that this isn't an important thing. You know, we've got to do documentation, and we've done screenshots for this. But then someone came and stuck their oar in, as is often the case with these sort of things.
That never happens.
It was Mark Shuttleworth, in fact.
Oh.
He said, guys, it's a trivial change, not material for screenshots. This icon looks essentially the same in the same place. We're 10 days from release and we're not a release candidate. And they decided on the back of that they should get on with it and fix it. And there's quite a few humorous comments that came after that. My favourites. Why isn't this marked as critical? This is of utmost importance. If we change the direction of the swirl, it will bring world peace and end hunger and all wars. David Klasink wasn't so impressed. He said, I'm left-handed and I feel offended by this bug. But Gareth Whitty had a different point of view. He said, I think it should be changed to a picture of Alan Pope.
Oh, I didn't choose that one. Mark chose that one. Martin, have you got one?
Yes, this is an XFCE bug. This is 12117. And this is a bug about XFCE wrecking users' monitors. And the steps to reproduce this are start XFCE using the default wallpaper, leave the computer with the screen turned on, and a cat in the same room. The expected results are the cat keeps sleeping, but the actual results are the cat scratches the screen.
Oh, is this because the XFC logo is a mouse?
Is a mouse.
Right. Do they have any documentary evidence for this happening?
There are, in fact, pictures of said cat scratching said monitor.
Quality.
Mycroft, what's your favourite bug?
Well, now, something's not right, because now I can't see.
Okay.
Right.
Useful. I can't wait for my proper Mycroft to arrive. So one of the bugs that I quite like, we're running low on time, so we'll have to motor through these, is a bug which is bug number 14524, I think. And the bug description is, wallpaper isn't a PNG, it's a JPEG. And the problem with this is the file name is Ubuntu Warty Final.png. That's the wallpaper that you get shipped in Ubuntu by default. And Warty was the original code name for Ubuntu, the first release. And in fact, every release after that for many years had a different code name, but the file name for the wallpaper was still always Ubuntu Warty Final.png. But they're not complaining about that. They're complaining about the fact that it's called .png, but it's actually not a ping. It's a JPEG file. So, yeah. I found that quite interesting. The default wallpaper was in Ubuntu 8.10 and still used in 12.10. It's actually a JPEG. So eventually it got fixed. But yeah, some people get quite uppity about things in Ubuntu. Mark, have you got a quick one?
The next one is it's actually a bug from Chromium. It's bug number 18385. So the steps to reproduce. Look at what the X button is supposed to be. What is the expected result? An X button. What happens instead? Some guy's head. So this was, for some reason, someone committed a change to Chromium for Linux, which instead of having the X button to close the window, had a picture of a guy called Glenn's head.
And that landed. So people on their machines ended up with the minimize icon, the maximize icon, and then some guy's head next to it.
And the commit message for this change was Linux. Use Linux-specific window control graphics from Glenn.
Or indeed, Glenn.
It seems like this might have been an Easter egg gone wrong.
Right.
Where it was only supposed to happen sometimes, and it happened all the time.
Right.
Time for one more?
I don't know. What does Mycroft say?
How about a nice game of chess?
Well, that decides it, doesn't it?
Useful.
Go on, Martin.
Last one.
This is a bug that I encountered when I worked at Sun Microsystems, and a campus sysadmin reported a bug to, or rather, the statistician in the campus reported a bug to the sysadmin, and he said, "We can't send mail more than 500 miles. A little bit more, actually. Call it 520 miles, but no farther." Now, the sysadmin was a little bit taken aback by this and did some initial, check-in, like, have there been any changes to the system recently? Well, yes, a consultant had come in and patched the Sun OS server. And then the sysadmin said, well, but none of the mail stuff was changed. So then the sysadmin logs onto this box and he starts sending emails to his friends and family around America. And he discovered that when he sent an email to Princeton, which was 400 miles away, it worked. And when he sent an email to Memphis, 600 miles away, it failed. And when he sent an email to New York, 420 miles away, it worked. And then Providence, 580 miles away, failed. And so he'd proven that, indeed, he couldn't send an email more than 500 miles. So then he telnetted to the SMTP port of the mail server and was greeted by a Sun OS banner. And he suddenly realised that this was the root of the problem, because he'd upgraded all of his servers to SendMail 8, and the version of SendMail in Sun OS at the time was 5. And he looked at his SendMail configuration, and it was the same configuration he had everywhere, but SendMail 5 didn't understand the templating, so any values that were templated, it set to 0, including the timeout for the connection time to the remote host.
Classic.
His entire campus network was switched. So he thought, well, look,
if I had a penny for every time I'd done that.
The light speed over distance. So he did some calculations and he used units. So apt install units. There's your command line love for this episode. He gave it 3 millilight seconds as the unit, and he wanted miles, and the result was 558 miles.
Happens to me all the time. All the time. Mycroft, what do you think?
My built-in basic directive forbids me to permit bodily injury to a rational being.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Righto, then. Leah, let's move on. Is that everything?
I think so.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Make it end. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us ramble on for far too long. It's time to go to the bar. Thank you, everyone.
Martin's going to say that, apparently,
Yeah.
according to our laminated show notes.
So we are about to leave, but come and find us in the bar, because our friends at the Ubuntu France local community team have given us a load of water-applied Ubuntu and Tux tattoos, and everyone can go mad with those.
Okay.
Selfie-tastic fun.
So, Mycroft, what do you think of that?
If you do not speak English, I am at your disposal with 187 other languages along with their various dialects and subtongues.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. We may have
Do we have outro music?
Yeah, if I could find it, I would play
Just
the outro.
yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. That's my contender.
Should we announce that now?